Welcome back to the Emperor Atheist channel with your host, the Emperor Atheist. Hope everybody's been enjoying the day, enjoying the week. Once again, before I start, thanks for the new subscribers. Also, thanks for the likes, thanks for the dislikes, all the comments. Once again, I always try to, when I have the time, to get back into comment. Well, whoever commented to me, I try to comment back, have some type of dialogue going. No matter who it is, it doesn't matter to me. It's okay. But this subject here, dealing with atheists or non-believers, whatever you want to call them, secularists, or whatever you want to call yourself, naturalists, so many different type terms now. I just stick to the main one. The rest of it just kind of makes me never mind. And even for those who call themselves agnostics, even though that's a difference. But I won't speak for the agnostics. I'm just speaking for the atheists. Okay, those who definitely straight out reject a God hypothesis. Me personally, I think the agnostic position is kind of poor. But I'll get off into that later, maybe in another video. But matter of fact, Richard Dawkins, I don't know if y'all ever read the book, his book, The God Delusion. It's a great book if you've never read it. Great book. Whether you disagree with him or not. But he has a chapter in that particular book, and it's called, and I don't want to change subject to this video, but it's called The Poverty of Agnosticism. Great chapter. And he explains why the agnostic position is sort of weak. But like I said, I'll say that for another video. But this particular subject, I think, was a good subject. Somebody brought it to my mind in one of my groups. And it was talking about questions that theists ask atheists concerning the afterlife. And I've spoken on the afterlife before, but on a different type, maybe a different subject matter of the afterlife. But religious, and I've been asked this question myself. I've been posed this question years ago myself by different theists. And they'd be like, well, Emperor Atheist, if you're an atheist, you don't believe in God or the Bible version of a resurrection, and Quran has this version too that, humans, I guess, going to resurrect back or whatever the hell they think, going to come back like Zombie Day, like World War Z, going to come back and go to some type of heaven or whatever. And that's cool. That's what y'all believe. Okay. Y'all believe angels going to snatch you up out the ground and all this shit. And some Christians believe in this rapture, something that the Bible don't really even talk about, but they just misinterpret certain verses of the New Testament. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point is that the theists ask me a question, they say, and they ask certain people questions. They say, well, if you don't believe in God, does that mean you don't believe that you'll ever see your family members again, who have died and who went on? So you just think that after we die, there's nothing else? Now, I'm going to answer this question in 2 parts, maybe 3 parts, because there's a lot of atheists who think about this too. I've talked to a lot of atheists who have just maybe just left theism recently, within the last year or 2 or 3 or 4, and a lot of them still kind of think like this themselves, and they probably feel a certain type of way. So I'm talking to the atheists too, and I'm going to talk to the theists who are asking this question. Now, me personally, I'm going to speak for me personally. And this is just my take on it. I'm not speaking for all atheists here, but I'm speaking to everybody that's listening to the video. My take on that is I would be retarded, literally retarded, to not want to come back to life and to not want to see my grandmother, my father who passed away in 96, or to see my brothers and sisters or cousins or whoever has died. Matter of fact, I think it would be on the verge of retardation for anybody who wouldn't want to at least come back to see what happened, to like, man, you maybe you died whatever year, you died in 2017, and you want to come back and see what happened in the next 100 years, or how did the world advance, I know a lot of people probably think like this, because I think like this, but I always say, and I'm speaking for me, and now I'm just going to say, I think that probably most atheists, or some atheists, probably would love for this stuff to be real. Think about this. If there was a such thing as a God, if I accepted this God, and I live the moral life because I'm going to live a moral life with or without God. I don't need a God or a holy book to make me live a moral life. First thing, let's get that out the way. And a lot of people get that misconstrued, that you need some type of God or some belief in a God to live a moral life. And if you do, and I'm talking to you theists now, if you believe that you need a God or the threat of a hell to make you live a moral life, then you're a hypocrite anyway, because you're only being moral because you're scared to burn in some hell. So you already some bullshit. You already should just go to hell if it's a hell, because the only reason you're doing it because you basically forced to do it. You're not being good because it's just innate in you. But I always tell people, I say, if it was a God and all these things were true, I would love for that to be real. I would love to say, man, I'm going to resurrect one day and I'm going to live in some place where the streets are paved in gold. I mean, listen to this. Who in the hell would not want to live in a place where streets are paved with gold? That's the ultimate shit. Milk and honey, the land of milk and honey. So I guess you can have milk and honey. Hopefully they'll have Oreos there, because I love Oreos and milk. And the Chips Ahoy, the little Chips Ahoy hard crunch ones. I'm sure God all powerful, He could have Chips Ahoy still there. But just think, you come back to life. Not only do you get to see your family members that you lost, your mother, your father, people that you dearly loved on earth. I would be stupid not to say that I would want that, right? So it would be equally stupid to just want to force myself to disbelieve in something that sounds so wonderful. So it's like the position of the atheist, and I think I can speak for most atheists here. The position of the atheist when thinking about that, we rather stick with something that is real. We rather face the facts of realism than to live with a false comfort. You think I don't want to see my dad again or my mother when she passes away? I would be foolish to say that. That would be like the dumbest shit ever in the world to say. Oh no, man, I just want to die and don't never come back. Or I don't want to see nobody again. That would be like that would be just some of the dumbest shit I think anybody could say. Why wouldn't I want to come back and live forever if I don't have to age and fly around with some angelical wings or some shit or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be like? Eat milk and honey all day, and I'm sure they still gonna have, seafood. Well, I don't know. That would be strange. I wonder if seafood gonna be in heaven because there's no seas up there. I don't know. I might not want to go because I do love seafood. I just thought about that. Damn, won't be no lobster tails in heaven. But remember now, God is like all powerful, so He can make lobster tails. It got to be a sea. He says river, so His river's gonna be somewhere in heaven. So yeah, sure. Maybe we might be on another planet. I don't know. Mars might be heaven. I don't know. No, Mars can't be heaven because humans are going to be going to Mars in a little while. So it's got to be further away. Maybe Jupiter or somewhere like that might be heaven. So we probably still got seafood, stuff like that. So I'm cool with that. But just think about it, man. Why in the hell would anyone not want to live again? Not only just to see your family, your loved ones, and to reunite your loved ones, but just to see what happened after you died. I'm sure somebody could tell you. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of people there, right? So I mean, that's just, I think that would be like a common sense thing for anyone to. And I'm talking about the religious view of living, of resurrecting again, going to some beautiful place called heaven, reuniting with your family members, the ones who didn't go to hell, because surely some of your family members are going to go to hell. I'm sure, because everybody not going to heaven, obviously not. Hell, you might not go, but just say, just for the sake of argument, just say you do go. You know what I mean? Of course, you will want this stuff to be real, but at the same time, I would also love, and this is in retrospect to, I think, mythical imagination and the way the human mind loves to delve into mythical fantasy things. That's something with the human mind that we love to do this. I would also love to have the sword that not the sword, but the hammer that Thor had. Man, that's a powerful hammer. I would also love to have the power of Batman. I wish I was Superman. I wish that was real. I could just fly, man, and be strong as hell. I wish I had the mental power of Professor Xavier from X-Men. I mean, so it's like fantasy. Yeah, I would love all of that too. I mean, I love comic books. I grew up a big comic book fan, so I mean, man, I would love to have the power of Professor Xavier. I could stop people, get into their heads, and see what they're thinking and see what they're doing. That would be awesome, man. I would hack so much stuff, man. I would be in the government. I'd be doing all type of stuff if I had Professor Xavier power. That would be awesome. So I just said that to say I think that's equal to believing in me resurrecting or some God and some angels resurrecting me and I'm going to live into some land of milk and honey forever and ever and resurrect my people. Although I would love to see my family members again, but at the same time, I would also like to stay true to reality and factual things. And nobody's ever died and, said they came back and said anything like this. You got all these falsified stories of people talking about they went into a coma and they saw Jesus and all this bullshit. But we all know that's a bunch of crap, a bunch of garbage. Muslims also can say the same thing. They went and saw the pedophile Muhammad. So it's no different. But to those of you who are atheists and you may be, feeling a certain type of way about that, I mean, the best advice I can give you is to enjoy your family here on the earth today. I mean, and life. It's the only life I think we're gonna get. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm an atheist, but I'm not the type of atheist who says I know for a fact there isn't a God, and I don't think no atheist should ever take that position. And you have different scales of atheists. I'm what you call agnostic atheist, or what some may call a weak atheist. Then you have the Gnostic atheists who say we know for a fact that there's no God. Just like you have what you call the Gnostic theists who think they know there's a God. So I think both positions are basically foolish. And I rather stay in between to say, hey, I'm atheist and I reject the God hypothesis because you have no evidence to prove it. But at the same time, the Gnostic atheists, those who say they know there isn't a God, you also can't disprove something like a God or a deity. You know what I mean? It's unfalsifiable. So you're just going to be going in rhetorical, circular arguments all day, trying to disprove it. It's like somebody said, hey, I believe in a spaghetti monster. I can't disprove that. You know what I mean? I don't know if a lot of y'all are familiar with Bertrand Russell and the philosophy that he came up with, but he came up with the floating teapot. And if any of you just look this up, it's just a nice example that he came up with. And basically what Bertrand Russell was saying is that if I tell you that there's a floating teapot in between Saturn and Neptune or wherever, you can't disprove that. It's an unfalsifiable thing. Just like these theists say, oh, there's a God. We can't disprove it. But what we can do, we can show that it doesn't make sense, that it doesn't add up to logical reason. And of course, they can't prove it. But since they are the ones who actually put this God on people and try to force this God and force prayer into schools and force religion on people and have killed people for thousands of years over these garbage ass religions, then it is obvious that the burden of proof is on the theists to prove it. And that burden of proof has been on them from day one, and they can't prove it. The books are contradictory. We've proven that. For those who say that the book is contradictory or that the original texts are not there, the burden of proof is on us, and we've actually proven that. We know that for a fact. We have a lot of pastors and theologians who came out to church who's proven that these books are bullshit. I've proven it time and time again, and I'm going to keep doing it. And only thing that the believers can do is throw their faith in. Well, we still have faith. You have faith, but empirical evidence shows that you don't have any original copies of your Bible. Same thing with the Quran. You don't have an original Quran that you say this imaginary Allah gave to Muhammad. The Christians, you don't have you don't even have a second to an original copy of the Bible. You have copies of copies of copies. This is what you have. And the earliest copies you have are fragments. I think the earliest one would be P52, which means Papyri 52. It's about the size of a debit card. This is about 100 years out of, as far as past so-called Jesus life. So when we're talking about empirical evidence, even of your book, You have a book that you don't even have the original. You don't know what the Bible said or what the New Testament really said. You don't know who these authors are. You don't have historicity of these authors. So as far as the atheist stance on not believing in any of this garbage, starting with your books, we have a strong stance on that. We have a strong argument that you can't refute. You have people like William Lane Craig and all these other Christian apologists who try to use philosophical jargon, but it doesn't work. They get embarrassed. People like Christopher Hitchens embarrassed them. Richard Dawkins, not even a real debater, have embarrassed them for years. I mean, even Lawrence Krauss, who's definitely not a good debater, he even makes theist apologists look bad from time to time. Sam Harris destroys them. I've been invited to plenty of debates. I've went to some. I've been in some myself. And I've just been out the circuit lately, last couple of years, because trying to get my business together, get my trucks on the road like I want to. But I'm going to get back in the circuit. And I'm going to be doing it myself because I love debating, actually. It's a thing I love to do. But like I said, as an atheist, my position as an atheist, as an agnostic atheist, I never just go out and say, oh, I know for a fact there's no God. Because I understand taking that position would be just the opposite ignorant position that the theists take when they say they know there is a God. So only thing I say is your books are bullshit. I can prove it. You don't know who your original authors are. Matthew and all of these things have lied on each other. We can prove that. Stories in your Bible were added later to the later copies. We understand that. So these things are facts. When you go to the Gospel of Mark, Mark 16, chapter 9, verses 1 through 20 was added. You go to a lot of the study Bibles that'll tell you that. And I'm talking about the resurrection story of Jesus when he resurrected on that Sunday, and Mary Magdalene went to see the rock had been rolled away, all this bullshit. That whole chapter in 16:9 verses 1 through 20 had been added years and years later. It was not in the earliest copies found. So where did it come from? I don't know if y'all familiar with John chapter 7. I think it's John chapter 7 starting at verse 53. Which goes to the 8th chapter to verse 11, and this is dealing with the story of the adulteress. Very popular story where you see what Jesus was told. It was a woman, she's supposed to be caught in adultery, and she was running and ran by Jesus, and the people was chasing after the stone of the devil. And Jesus told the people that those of you who without sin cast the first stone. And Jesus, he went down and right in the sand. Y'all know the story. Well, come to find out, it's called the Pentateuch. It's not in the because there is no original copies. It's not in the earliest copies or earliest manuscripts of the New Testament. These are facts. So where did these stories come from? And the thing you have to understand, if these were not in the earliest copies that were found, and they were added later by men, then what else was added to these stories? What was in the original? We have no idea. So it's like you have to take it with a grain of salt. These books are bullshit. They're man-made. They're not what you think. They're not some book that's been inspired by some awe-inspiring, all-powerful God. So, and I didn't mean to jump subject on as far as on textual things of the Bible, but that's just how I see it. And one of my positions of why I'm atheist. And just things just seeing around the world. Things that happen in biblical times, like I say all the time, you don't see it happen in real life. So it's like, where is this God? When he was so involved in man's actions in these books, but he's nowhere to be found now. Though people do what they want to do now. Killings are much more rampant. But yet he split a Red Sea for some damn Israelites to cross over because they was getting away from the Pharaoh army, and he drowned them according to these false stories. But yet this is nowhere in Egyptian records. Nowhere in Egyptian records, of course. Of course it's not, because it didn't happen. But yet this God can't come down and save children and people now that's getting killed in America and around the world through domestic terrorism and foreign terrorism. So that's my take on that. I'd like to appreciate y'all for liking my videos. Continue to share my videos. I'm the Emperor Atheist. I'm out.